Welcome to Common Sense Investing. My name is Cameron, and thank you for joining me on another live stream talking about microcap stocks. You could be anywhere, and you're here with me talking about microcap stocks. I absolutely love it because I constantly talk about how microcap stocks, nanocap stocks, small cap stocks, even some of these smaller stocks are the absolute best place for retail investors to be to make money. So, as usual, I have a presentation for you today. I'm going to talk about some of these microcap stocks. Feel free to ask questions, comment, heckle me in the comments, talk about stocks. Once this presentation is over, I will get to questions and answers. We'll have a little chat, anything you want to talk about. I see some people are already asking about some stocks. That's fantastic. But I got to do my presentation first. And I personally am going to love this presentation today because I get to brag, right? This is my thumbnail talking about some winners in microcap stocks. And you know what? I am allowed to brag today because I am the guy that covers microcap stocks, whether times are good or times are bad, right? You remember this slide? How many times have I brought this slide up on my videos talking about, well, if a rising tide floats all boats, when the stock market is doing well, all stocks are going up. What happens when the tide goes out? And that sometimes happens with microcap stocks. And for me, it's good to have these videos to motivate people to continue investing in microcap stocks. And what we're left with is some of the most resilient, best microcap investors out there. Somebody says their sound is cutting out. It shouldn't be. No, I can hear myself perfectly. Remember this thumbnail? Volatility ahead, right? This was a live stream from not too long ago. Remember this thumbnail when Donald Trump's tariffs were crashing the stock market, right? That was not a very fun live stream for me. I didn't get to brag on that one. It got worse sometimes, right? The entire stock market is basically on fire. This is probably due to Donald Trump again. I don't know if you remember that live stream. That was another bad day, probably another bad video. Are we at rock bottom? Finally, hopefully things were at rock bottom. I'm still trying to motivate people. This is the best time to research stocks. Go find the best stocks to buy. Good stocks for cheap. That's what I'm looking for when we get these macroeconomic stock crashes. Really like this thumbnail. My face is in the way of the guy on the ground. But basically, this is how a lot of microcap investors felt not too long ago. Some of these were from like February, March, January 2025, basically. All of these terrible thumbnails of the stock market going down was 2025. Well, today I get to brag a little bit and celebrate. Now, before I get to that, don't forget, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I don't know anything about you. I couldn't possibly give any kind of financial advice because I don't know your experience, your risk tolerance, or anything like that. It starts to be a little bit like McDonald's. McDonald's was sued because their coffee was too hot. Now that's coming up again, right? So the coffee is too hot. Microcap stocks are risky. That's just the way life is. Please take that into account. And this is not how to invest. This is how I invest. And for more information other than these live streams, head on down to my website, where commonsenseinvesting.ca. I have a Patreon, Discord. I got a Substack. I got my links to my YouTube videos and everything else, right? I'm going to start with some bad. Because one of the things I talk about, I already see people talking about find more winners. And, I'll continue finding winners. I always do. The thing is, we have to keep in mind that I believe that microcap investing is about 20% stock picks and about 80% strategy, right? You do your best. It's kind of like poker. You do your best to play the hand you're given with the information you're given about a stock, to look at the risk versus reward profile of a stock, and then make a bet. Sometimes it's a small bet, sometimes it's a large bet, but I do compare microcap investing to poker. And in that strategy, right, you're going to swing and miss sometimes. You're going to lose some hands. That's just the way it is. You're going to have pocket aces and you're going to lose to a 7-2 offsuit, and there's nothing you could do about it, right? So there have been a couple of those lately. So one of the things with my channel, one of my problems is I'm probably too honest, and I always talk about some bad things, including the good things. Evo Medical Technologies, where are they? They're obliterating my 2025 NanoCap stock picks because I think this was my number 5 pick. Might have been number 4, but I think it was number 5. They were at 11 cents at the time. They just decided to kind of disappear. They went down to security is halted. They went down to about half a penny. Now the security is halted. I think that's BS. I think if there's any shareholders out there, I'm curious if there's any legal firms getting some kind of lawsuit together, because a lot of the information that they were putting out seemed to indicate that they had significant assets to sell, and now they're just gone. So that's a problem. Evo Medical Technologies is basically gone, as well as I don't think SNP is gone. And I'm kind of joking around here that they've been inactive since about March, because SNP Interactive's been here at around 7.5 cents for a while, but they have truly been inactive since early May, when they were halted for not filing their Q4 and annual financials. Well, they did file their Q4 and annual financials on May 16th. That was 10 days ago, and still it's showing them as inactive. So not good for those two stocks. But keep in mind with microcap stocks, the strategy is you're going to swing and miss on some of them. What you need is to find those big bull stocks, those winners, and ride them until the end where you really make your money. And so we'll talk about some of those, right? I did my research on Planet Microcap Showcase. I'm still talking about that because it's still relevant. You know, at the time on my last live stream, my top 5 stocks from Planet Microcap had a 35% average gain. I was pretty happy about that. Look at some of the stocks on this list, and this is what I'm going to be bragging about today, right? NTG up 88%. It's actually about 89%. It closed at about 295 today. When I profiled them in my article, not for the first time, but just in my article back in April, the beginning of April, they were $1.54. They're now $2.95, up 90% or more. Zoom Technologies, when I profiled them in my article for Planet Microcap, they were number 8 on my list. They were at 43 cents, closed today at $1.23, up 186%. Absolutely fantastic. So, and I mean, you do get some losers like Evom and whatever the heck is going on with SNP. But out of these top 10 stocks that I researched, on average, every single one is up since I put out my article on them. And the average for all 10 is, you know, up 39%. But that's just not it. And this whole video is going to be me just bragging, because this is one of those days where I'm allowed to, right? NTG Clarity Networks. This isn't the first time that I profiled them for Planet Microcap. You could see me talking about them here January 11th, 2024, March 19th, April 30th, May 12th. I really like my first introduction video here on them. Is 2024 the year this rapidly growing penny stock gets noticed by investors? I know one of the first comments on this video was, I really like my 4-cent penny stocks, right? And NTG Clarity Networks at the time when I profiled it was 3 cents. It was actually down from 14% down from 4 cents when I had my first video on them. And one of the reasons why, you know, retail investors, and I keep talking about this, why this is such a good space for retail investors to invest, is we can make decisions based on common sense, because this is common sense investing, but also talking to the company, determining, you know, how honest they're being, what their future projections are. Because at the time, NTG Clarity Networks was giving us some pretty decent hints, and it wasn't getting picked up by any larger investors. It wasn't showing up on stock screeners, and it definitely wasn't getting picked up by any algorithms, right? You look at here, their share price from 2019 all the way until I made this video had basically done nothing for years. We're talking like 3, 4, 5 years that share price did very little. So when I produced a video on NTG Clarity Networks, this 3-cent stock that had done nothing for all this time, people thought I was crazy. So note to self, if Cameron makes a video on it, it's got some potential. I'm not wasting my time it takes me hours to make a YouTube video. By the time I script it, record it, and edit it, by the time I do that, it's got some potential. NTG Clarity Networks was putting out some information that was interesting at the time. I gave them a 2.5 star, and it's interesting looking back in hindsight, right? These were some of my warning flags for NTG Clarity Networks. Nobody is looking at this stock. It had done nothing for years and years and years. I was thinking, like, who's finally going to notice their growth? Lack of trust in revenue. Remember at the beginning how their reported earnings weren't very transparent? People were concerned about that. They had some fluctuations. But I mean, the things to look out for: 2.5 stars, major improvement from where they were. And I really liked NTG Clarity Networks at 3 cents. Then they moved up to 4 cents. And of course, we saw this was COVID. This is what we had to look out. This is what a lot of algorithms wouldn't pick up, is this cyclicality, right? They were improving. COVID kicked them in the ass, and then they started improving again. And that's what I noticed. They were up around 4 cents here on this video. And on this video, I upgraded them from 2.5 stars to 3.5 stars. So it's interesting. You have multiple times to buy a stock. And just looking, and these are all charts from these are all slides from previous videos. I'm not inventing these. These are from my videos from YouTube previously. This was my first video right here on NTG Clarity Networks when they're at 3 cents. I made a video on them here. I made a video on them here. My last video here in May of 2024, they were sitting at 43 cents. I made that video because I was frustrated that people were selling this stock off. Every time it went up, you notice every time that NTG Clarity Networks went up, people decided to take profits or just sell it entirely, right? It's amazing looking at it now that every time this stock went up, people decided to sell it off. And I actually have a slide about that. And this is a good slide to talk about sometimes, right? Because I'm just going to move myself and see if that works. But basically, this is what I was talking about. This is when NTG Clarity Networks was sitting at about 70 cents. This is when Keystone Financial actually started buying them. And I was talking about, you see this pink line right here? And I was basically saying, it's great if people are trying to swing trade this thing. You made money, good work, right? Myself personally, I was buying and holding it because I was looking at this pink line. It was basically just going straight up. So why would I waste my time trying to time selling the tops? And this is why I was getting so frustrated at people, because every time it went up, it went down again. And I was basically saying, if your strategy is to panic buy or panic sell every week based on other people's opinions, mostly from CEO.ca, then good luck, but you're not going to make any money, right? So it was a little rude of me, but it's true. Sometimes you need a little bit of tough love, right? And after all that discussion, again, 3 cents, 4 cents, 43 cents. Now I have a video here. They're at 70 some cents. I'm still saying like this is a long-term buy and hold. So I'm more proud of this slide than any other slide on NTG Clarity Networks. And I mean, here we are today, right? So from my first coverage, not at 3 cents, but at 15 cents, because they had a 5-to-1 reverse split, remember, 1,860% increase from my first video. That would turn $10,000 into $196,000 right now. And it's amazing because, yeah, we go look at, the odd stock like Evome that, swing, miss, and just not working out. It's going to happen, right? That's part of the strategy of microcap stocks. But when you can get these and when you can hold on and get these kind of returns, it's absolutely amazing. And, especially for people who decided to sell here or decided to sell here or decided to sell here, I'm sure some of you made some money, but it's definitely something to think about, right? One of the microcap strategies, or one thing that I always discuss, is try to ignore the share price. Look at the company. Is the company improving? And is it still at a good valuation? If the company's still getting better and the valuation isn't insanely high, then, why are you selling? And so this is kind of NTG Clarity Networks this year. It deserves a video onto itself with those kind of returns, right? From 3 cents to $2.95 for NTG Clarity Networks. And congratulations to all your shareholders out there. Another one. And I mean, if it was just NTG, I probably wouldn't, dominate this entire live stream just talking about these stocks, but there's two of them here, right? So this is my first video on Zoom Technologies, June 30th, 2024, penny stocks with potential, Zoom trending up. What did I say? Hidden gem on the rise, Zoom Technologies is making shareholders money through multiple expansion. Can this continue? Finding penny stocks with potential in 2024 is harder as many companies have struggled out of COVID and into higher interest rates. They are beat up stocks, but finding the best companies that have made changes and can emerge stronger in the long term can be an excellent way to make money investing. Is Zoom stock one of these companies? And so far, absolutely it is, right? So $1.23 right now for Zoom Technologies. My first video on them was at 16.5 cents. Interestingly enough, I also put out a Substack kind of talking about how they were a bit overvalued here. And you could see that they went through this long trending down cycle of share price. And this was arguably a bit overvalued given the risk. But then I picked them in April during my Planet Microcap conference research, and up they go again. So it's one of the best timings with a stock I've ever had. Again, they made number 8, my number 8 pick at 43 cents here for Planet Microcap. And so if you look at the history of Zoom Technologies on my channel, right, introduce them here after a long time. Remember I said they did nothing. They did nothing for a long time, right? And I was wondering, out of COVID, their numbers were improving. Can this company improve and get a bit of a slingshot here with increasing earnings? That was my video here. This is my Substack here at this price where I warn people, it's a little bit high. They have some risk with Shine. And then, of course, I picked them again back up right here. And they presented at Planet Microcap, basically alleviating some of the current concerns of Donald Trump, trade tariffs with China, and all that stuff going on, saying that we can reallocate money that we were going to spend marketing in the United States to other geographic sections. Since that time, they produced Q1 earnings and have rocketed up in share price. So I'm very, very happy with Zoom Technologies. Now, interestingly enough, timing is important with microcap stocks. I just talked about how NTG Clarity Networks for me was a buy and hold. I'm still a shareholder of NTG Clarity Networks to this day. Other stocks, not so much. So WidePoint. So I've already had 2 stocks that have basically doubled in the past 5 or 6 weeks since I introduced them for Planet Microcap. But I also have another. It just dropped down in price. That was WidePoint. So WidePoint made it just barely onto my number 10 pick for Planet Microcap. When I actually bought shares, I don't own any anymore. I actually bought shares under $3. They went to about $2.85 USD. I sold about here. I sold at about $4.05 because I just couldn't figure out why the share price was going up so quickly, and I made some money. It was time to take some gains. They actually doubled. So I didn't just make one double from NTG or 2 doubles from Zoomed. Out of these 10 picks, 3 of my stocks actually doubled in share price in the past month. The only problem is, for some reason, right around here, and I don't know why, because I haven't been following WidePoint since this time, it absolutely crashed back down right to my buying price. So I might need to go take another look at WidePoint, kind of what caused this increase in price and what caused the crash back down here. And that could be worth another look because this company made it onto my list and doubled. It just couldn't hold it, right? So for shareholders, WidePoint, Zoomed, and NTG Clarity Networks, right? I love this show. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I used to watch this one. Congratulations. That's some just outstanding returns. I don't think I talked about it here as much with Zoomed, but Zoomed, not from the bottom. Some people bought Zoomed at like 8 cents. My video on them was at, I think, 16.5 cents Canadian. I think their low was around 8 cents Canadian. Right now, closing 645% increase. It would turn about a $10,000 investment into $74,500 today from the 16.5 where I made my video. So Pretty impressive, pretty happy. I get to brag. What's happening in the future? Interestingly enough, this is based share price gain. A lot of it's based on financial fundamentals. Market cap for NTG Clarity Networks now 124 million Canadian. They reported 56 million of revenue in 2024, 12.3 million of adjusted EBITDA, 9.9 million of net income, and they put out pretty good guidance here, right? 75 million of expected revenue in 2025. When we look at Zoomed, interesting, just about the same market cap. NTG Clarity Networks was 124 million, Zoom Technologies 121 million. Very similar companies, aren't they? 54.1 million for Zoomed, net income a little less, $1 million less, sitting at 8.9 million for 2024. They did not provide outlook. The CEO, go double check this, but I know on the one interview that I watched, the CEO basically stated, hey, if things go really bad, we're going to get about 10% growth. And if things go well, we're going to get about 70% growth. Their Q1 already reported something like 107% growth. They reported 18.2 million in Q1 with already 4.8 million of net income. So they got about half of their entire 2024 net income in Q1 of 2025. That's outstanding. When you compare them, again, you could see some of the similarities. I didn't put down the market cap. Basically, $121 million market cap right here for Zoomed, but $124 million market cap right here for NTG Clarity Networks. Look at it. Similar revenue, similar net income. Outlook, a little bit more aggressive here with NTG. They still have to report their Q1, whereas Zoomed already reported a fantastic Q1. But NTG does a little bit better of communicating with shareholders. They put out a lot of press releases about contracts. So they do have a little bit more communication, bullish communication throughout the year with people, right? So which one is your favorite? Are you still going to hold these companies? Are you trimming? Are you selling? Do you prefer NTG Clarity or Zoomed? What are you going to do in the future? What's the next NTG Clarity Networks or the next Zoom? I don't think either one is done yet, but it's interesting to find the next tiny company that's going to improve. One of the things I've been talking about recently, I've been writing a book on microcap stocks for about 18 months. It's hard. So what I have been doing is I've started putting out some articles on Substack talking about basically breaking down a book into different chapters or articles. And eventually someday I'm going to take all these articles that I write, put it together, and I'll have a book about microcap stocks, right? But this first article here, who you are as an investor, if you sold NTG too early, there's some discussion about that. Basically trying to figure out what's the best investing style for you, some questions to ask yourself. That is on my Substack. And don't forget, everything I offer is on my website, commonsenseinvesting.ca. So I'm done. That's the presentation. And I needed that. I really did need that. After about, 6, 7, 8 different live streams of Donald Trump crashing the market and tariffs crashing the market, we're finally starting to see some really good stocks making people money. And I'm happy to be here today. So questions, concerns, comments. Now it's the Q&A time. So if you're just here to watch the presentation is over. Absolutely love NTG Clarity Networks and Zoom Technologies. Anything else you want to talk about here? So first question here is asking about a stock, QU Media. So my question to you would be kind of comparing, go back and look at where NTG Clarity Networks was when they were a 4-cent stock, right? They were a 4-cent stock. They had significant growth and a close to or near inflection point. At this point, I don't know anything about QU Media. I've looked at them a few times. They've never made my channel. It does look like they're getting some growth and their EPS is improving, right? They're losing less money. So that might be something that's worth looking at some point for me on this channel. But basically, I'm looking for trends, right? I'm looking for a company that's improving. Whether you look at Zoomed or whether you look at NTG Clarity Networks, forget about, oh, they didn't do anything from this time to this time. Forget about your biases, right? We're looking for trending improvement, or at least I am. And so that would be my question for you with QU. And I can't comment on it past that because I haven't researched it as well at all. Love the videos. Keep them coming. Thank you. Yeah, NTG Clarity Networks. And thank you to Jordan Zinberg from Bedford Park Capital for really getting the ball rolling on NTG Clarity Network. So I think NTG was what, about $1.85 Canadian before it made BNN Bloomberg, thanks to Jordan Zinberg talking about it, presenting it on that show. And yeah, I mean, we all knew that NTG Clarity Networks was undervalued. The question was, will it stay undervalued for a long time because of the risk of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? Right? A lot of people won't invest in the Middle East. So the question was always, will NTG Clarity Networks just stay cheap for a long time, forever? And Jordan Zinberg helped, bring them into the light where they're not cheap forever. They're getting closer to fair value, which is fantastic. I personally think that's fair as well because, as you've seen, like Donald Trump has thrown absolute grenades at the North American markets. So it's interesting in that a year ago, 2 years ago, I think the North American markets were safe, and Saudi Arabia, where NTG Clarity Networks makes most of their revenue, was unsafe. And now, obviously people are willing to open their eyes a little bit and say, you know what, my portfolio has a little bit of room for some of these high growth stocks outside of the United States, outside in a way of tariffs, right? NTG Clarity Networks has no tariff implications. Donald Trump can tariff the heck out of anything he wants, and it won't affect NTG Clarity Networks. Yeah, Zcore, QNC, I don't know what that is. Zcore had a good earnings. Zcore just continues to produce. Wow, what a great company. I wish I covered that one more. I never did cover Zcore. Going back, I regret that. That is very much my type of company. But yeah, I covered Zoomed, NCI, and I have no idea what QNC is. So I got half of the stocks right on your list, and that's the absolute best you can do. If you can get about 51% success rate in microcap stocks, you will make a lot of money. Why has TGH gone up 70% lately? That's a tough one. That's Tornado Global Hydrovacs. They've made a lot of fantastic changes. They changed their name. They're expanding into the United States, and their facility in Red Deer, Alberta is, I think, close to or done their expansion efforts. So the problem with Tornado Global Hydrovacs was they had a facility that they said could produce 300 hydrovac trucks, and they produced 320 this year. So they're basically at capacity. Who's going to invest in a stock that's at capacity? Well, they expanded into the US. They're building up their capacity there. They expanded their Red Deer production. I think they could build 400 hydrovac trucks at the Red Deer facility now. So they probably have 1 or 2 more years of growth still in Canada, and then they can get, that buys them time to grow in the United States, as well as they got a few other things going on. Tariffs are a big one. The big concern for me with Tornado Global Hydrovacs was all of their hydrovac trucks would be tariffed. To this point, they have not been tariffed that I'm aware of. So TGH has done absolutely stunningly well. I wish they would communicate more with retail shareholders. They have chosen not to. It's really hard to get information out of them. You bought Aritza on the big Trump tariff down day, up 65% since. Congratulations. And that's, hopefully you're watching my live streams. That's what I was doing too. It's interesting in that when we look at buying the dip or buying, everybody says, be greedy when others are fearful, and they don't really do it. I tend to take my own route with that, in that if a stock is dropping and I don't know why it's dropping, that's typically not something I'm willing to buy the dip on. So when I look at being greedy when others are fearful, I actually don't look at individual stocks that much, because when a stock is going down in share price, there's a darn good chance that somebody else out there knows something that I don't, and that's why the shares of this one individual stock are going down. But when Donald Trump or anybody else throws an absolute hand grenade at the market, the entire market goes down, and you have good growing companies, high quality companies that are going down in share price because that's just what it's expected to do. Everybody's afraid the world is ending, blah, blah, blah. That is when I like to be greedy, when everybody else is fearful. And there's quite a few stocks like that, right? We had quite a few companies that got absolutely obliterated during the Trump tariff scare, Liberation Day. And some of them have rebounded, some haven't. So for the people who bought that scare and are up 65% like David, congratulations. Holding everything right now. Yeah, interesting. I'm assuming you mean Zoomed and NTG Clarity Networks, meaning that you own both of them, and that is congratulations, because that would be good. Hi, my husband and I are both here. Do you have any more nano caps on the docket in the next few weeks? Yes. Um, Anybody in my Patreon already knows some of the little tiny companies that I like. I probably won't discuss them too much publicly because a lot of the tiny companies, I don't want to try to push the price up like some kind of penny stock pumper. But my paid Patreon Discord already knows, and I have a Substack article coming out talking about some of the smaller companies that I'm interested in. And I just made a video on one of them, Glow Life Tech, right? I think they're around a $7 million market cap, 6 to 8, depending on which penny they decide to trade at today. Glow Life Tech is one I'm interested in and already made a video on. But I have more coming. There's more I'm interested in right now, right? Here's the thing. Need the next NTG and Zoom. I agree. Just make sure, watch my videos on when to trim and when to take profits. I do still believe, and I'll say it again, that 80% making money in microcaps is strategy. And I saw so many people with, for example, NTG Clarity Networks, when it went from 20 cents to 45 cents, people sold because they doubled. There's so many people out there that are like, well, shit, I just doubled my money. I'm out, take the money and run. And good work, right? You doubled your money from 20 to 40 cents for NTG Clarity Networks. But really the alpha with some of these stocks is buying and holding, and or making smart decisions along the way based on company growth and valuation and a risk versus reward balance, right? Because even looking at Zoomed, I talked about that. I didn't own, I sold my Zoomed at when they went up to about 80 cents, 85 cents because of the Shine. Their largest customer is Shine, and nobody was talking about that risk. And after I sold, share price went from 80 cents down to 45 cents. That changes the risk reward balance, right? And you have to reassess. So there's money. There's money even if you don't get a stock that's up like 20x. There's money to be made in some of the volatility, and there's money to be made in finding some of these good little companies. It's getting harder. It's getting harder for sure, though. Still think Roof is high conviction 10 bagger and commissioning result of Calgary plant are roughly a month away. Yeah, we're getting closer. Roof on the TSX Venture Exchange, North Star Clean Technologies. I only cover one pre-revenue stock per year. North Star isn't even pre-revenue. They do have a pilot facility making something like, $250,000 of revenue every quarter. They're not technically pre-revenue, but they're close enough. So I'm not bullish on a lot of pre-revenue stocks, but I do like Roof. I do like North Star. Like Bud is talking about, the only reason I would invest in a pre-revenue stock is I don't have to wait very long. Like Bud says, they do have a Calgary facility that's going to be starting up pretty soon. And according to the company, not only are they starting up pretty soon, they actually have product available where they're going to ramp up very quickly. So I was hoping by the end of 2025, we would see some solid numbers that we can actually evaluate at a Roof. And it's looking like, yes, that's definitely going to happen according to the company. By the end of the year, we're going to have 3 to 6 months of solid numbers coming out of North Star Clean Technologies. to take a look at and judge if we want to hold by or what we want to do with it. ESP on the NASDAQ. Oh yeah, Espray. I don't know at this point. So Espray made my list somewhere. It keeps showing up on my stock screener and I keep looking at it, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head why they're not making my list. Power Electronics Design and Original Equipment Manufacturing Company, Espray Manufacturing. I know every time I go look at this one, it ends up making my stock screener. They got a little bit of growth. They got earnings, EPS is going up. So everything looks pretty good. I couldn't tell you why this one isn't making my list right now. $100 million market cap, only about 2 times sales, not a lot of debt. Probably worth another look, to be honest with you. I know it's on my list. I haven't covered it yet. So it could be here someday. There's still a lot of stocks that I'm looking at. I run out of time. I really do. But yeah, Espray Manufacturing, probably worth a look. It's already $100 million market cap, but for the NASDAQ, that's nothing. So Matrix is doing well. Like was it David was talking about buying the bottom on Aritzia? I mean, a lot of people have made money on Matrix buying the bottom. They went down to about 17 cents Canadian. They're now up to about 28 cents Canadian. Their previous CEO, Jeff, retired, and Randy Boomhauer, who was the CFO, became the CEO. And basically, Matrix is an infrastructure stock. And one of the things we've been seeing with a lot of companies, not just infrastructure, with a lot of companies, we've been seeing this Q4, Q1, first half of 2025 slow down because of Donald Trump, the US election, and then tariffs. So we've seen a lot of these companies report very weak earnings for the past 6 months, and they're forecasting potentially very weak earnings for the next 3 months or so. But what's happening is that companies can't stay on pause forever just because of Donald Trump and tariffs. Eventually, they need to resume some kind of normal business operations. They got to spend their capex. So what's happening with companies like Matrix is that now Matrix is saying that they're going to have a record year, which means they're going to see a lot of growth in 2025. It didn't show up in Q1. So unless Randy, the new CEO, is lying, we're going to see a lot of growth for Matrix in the back half of 2025 because they're claiming it's a record year. And basically what we're seeing is it could be because a lot of companies now are just saying, okay, we got to get back to normal operations. Let's start building again. Let's start manufacturing again. Let's get this economy rolling again. And that's what Matrix is basically telling us they expect to happen. Let's see here. Nanostock, Glow, forgot that one was in the Patreon. Yeah, so Glow Life Tech is, it's one of those stocks. It's a little bit expensive now, in my opinion. They're producing like $1 million of annualized, 1.2 million of annualized revenue. They have a market cap of $7 million. So very tiny company, just over $1 million of annualized revenue. They have a long ways to go. But when you look at some of these tiny little stocks, if they can get, what we're looking at as retail investors, if they can get, 50% growth per year, which is outstanding, and Glow might get more than that, and hit an inflection towards profitability, which means that we don't need share dilution unless they need something to grow or acquire or grow quicker, right? But basically, if they could fund themselves with their own cash production and they can continue growing quickly, that's exactly what we're looking for in some of these smaller stocks, right? And that's what we saw with NTG Clarity Networks. They were right at the cusp there. They did have that one financing to get them over the hump, right? Zoom's kind of the same thing, right? But now the share dilution is just about gone, growing, profitable, and now successful and discovered, right? So a lot of these companies, a lot of these stocks, there was a really good quote from Ian Castle a while ago, right? It's like, I'm going to present you a stock. You're going to hate it. I'm going to present it to you again in about, 6 months, and you're going to hate it a little bit less. And then I'll present it to you a year from now, and you're going to like it, but it's already going to have doubled in share price, right? So a lot of these stocks have some hair on them. You know, if they're this small, they're not all going to be perfect, right? And you have to figure out what your risk versus reward tolerance is. Hoping to see some interest in the nano caps sometime soon. Pretty low interest for the last few years, it seems. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing it. I agree with you. If we're talking like junior miners, junior oil explorers, a lot of those types of nano caps. And of course, for me, I'll try not to get political, but for me, that's political, right? Especially for Canada and the United States a little bit. That's changing a bit now, but a lot of the nano caps have not had support. They haven't been able to get mines. They haven't been able to drill for oil. Everything's been expensive, and they've struggled, right? So it'd be nice to see a little bit more of a economic environment where some of these smaller companies can succeed. And I think we're seeing that a bit more in the US. We'll see if that happens in Canada. I'd love to see the Canadian junior miners finally, get some really good returns and develop some of their projects, right? Let's see here. Are you still bullish on Enterprise Group? Thanks. I haven't been for a while. I released a Substack article on Enterprise Group a while ago and released or talked about some of the risks and some of my concerns there. And look, that's not saying that I'm not bullish on Enterprise Group long term. Great company, great management. Des and his team have done a great job. They now have Canada-wide exclusivity on their EPP or Evolution Power Project systems. So they Enterprise Group long term, I really like the company, and they're not moving off my lists at all. But the problem with Enterprise Group is that a lot of these companies are cyclical, right? And they're facing $60 oil. I'm not sure that exploration in Alberta is very bullish right now. It is in BC because of the new pipeline that fired up. So there's been a lot of gas drilling in BC, and that's why Enterprise Group has that new operation up in Fort St. John. So they're gonna do okay because of that. But they haven't really diversified yet into mining. They haven't diversified yet into data centers. They haven't diversified at all. And so Enterprise Group is kind of in this situation where I think we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown in oil. All their main customers are oil drillers, gas drillers, and so basically I'm on pause with Enterprise Group, and I have been since my last Substack article, and I think they were at about $1.85 or something at the time Canadian. So not that I don't like them, just they have some headwinds right now. Let's put it that way. Now, TSX has good earnings. Do you see any potential goes up? Now, Vertical Group, like the company, it's closer to fair value. I'm glad it went down. It went up to like 65 cents, 70 cents for Now Vertical Group. People forget it's still a high risk stock, right? I loved Now Vertical Group. I bought it at 12 cents and I bought it at 8 cents, and my dollar cost average was 10 cents. And then it went up to 50 cents, and I was celebrating. Congratulations, right? But that doesn't make all of their problems go away just because the share price goes up. So this is another one, Now Vertical Group. It's kind of on my wait and see list because 2025, they still have some issues that they need to solve, and they need to prove that they can get organic growth and or other forms of growth. So Now Vertical Group doesn't necessarily have headwinds, but they still have some challenges and some risk. And keep in mind, I've talked about this. When a share price of a stock goes up, your risk usually goes up. Sometimes it doesn't, depending on their earnings. But usually, when a share price goes up, the risk goes up because people's expectations are higher, right? When Now Vertical Group was at 8 cents, we didn't expect much. We expected them not to go bankrupt. If they didn't go bankrupt, this is going to be a good stock, right? Because they were priced for bankruptcy. When it goes from 8 cents to 60 cents, all of a sudden people expect growing profitability, no problem, quarter after quarter, just deliver. And I don't know that that's reasonable, right? SLE. I don't know what SLE is. Have I heard of this one before? Super League Enterprise. No, I don't think I've ever heard of this company in my life. What does Super League Enterprise do on the NASDAQ? Here's one of the problems. There's so many microcap stocks. You could throw 100 of them at me. I know so many. I have probably 200 microcaps in my Discord. I've researched probably, two or 300 microcap stocks in the past 12 months. There's just so many out there. Creates and publishes content experiences and media solutions across immersive platforms, cloud-based platform, experience, tournament. I'd have to go look at what they do. I don't know enough about them. Trailing 12-month, pretty wobbly growth, if you ask me. And, EPS is not great, although it's improving. So I'd have to go take a look. I don't know enough about them to comment, but definitely some red flags for me, right? So typically, I showed you a chart like zoomed. I'll go back and show you that. I don't like buying falling knives, right? And when you look at a company for the past year, it's done nothing but go down. I definitely have some concerns over that. They would have to, convince me significantly that something's changed. And I think I showed you like Zoom's 5-year chart somewhere in here. They had some similar things. Where is it? NTG Clarity did nothing for a while. So it's really catching that is where you want to catch. Depending on how patient you are, right? You might be willing to catch that. My question for some of these stocks that are just going down and people are bullish on, right? How patient are you? How long are you willing to wait? Here's the one for zoomed, and I can go to my presentation, so that's a little bit more clear. But again, it went down for a long time. Did I make a video on it here? No. Did I make a video on it here? No. Did I make a video on it here? No. Like typically I'm not that bullish on a stock until we find some kind of bottom, and then we have some kind of hope or potential for an inflection point, right? Now, maybe if you're a more patient person than me, you're willing to just kind of buy anywhere here and then wait, because in theory, anywhere you bought just about zoomed, you're making money today. But typically that's not my investing style. I'm looking for some inflection point to showing me that this is going to be a good, successful company. So I'm not saying that about SLE because I don't know it well enough, but it typically just at first glance, I'd wait for a bottom, and then they'd have to convince me that there's some kind of company improvement coming. There's some kind of inflection point that's going to stop that share price from dropping. I struggle to know when to move on from a stock. I've got really good gains on PNG and NTG, but should I just hold forever or sell and find a new stock? Up to you. At least you're holding to this point. It could be worse. You could be on here saying, damn it, Cameron, I sold NTG at 40 cents and I sold Kraken at 95 cents. And now I'm kicking myself because I lost all that potential money. It could be worse. So if you're holding too long, that's probably a little bit better. I do have a separate video talking about when I trim and when I sell a stock. And look, there's a whole bunch of things to talk about there, but can you find a better stock? Do you think there's a better stock out there than NTG or PNG right now, right? Do you need to reduce your risk? Is your portfolio size, if NTG is up significantly, is it too large in your portfolio? Do you need to de-risk your portfolio, right? So is there a better company out there? Do you need to de-risk your portfolio? There's a few things to discuss when trimming or selling a stock, but I mean, that's a couple things to talk about, right? Did you check out Nurse at Planet Microcap? High forecasts for 2025 that no one believes yet, like NCI. I'm going to go take a look at Nurse V someday. I will. That's Hydrate Technologies. Very popular company. It's already up about, 3 or 4x at this point. Doesn't mean it can't go higher. We've seen that lots too. Look at NTG Clarity, right? So I'm not going to cop out and just say that I'm not going to research it because it's already up. That would be a mistake. I am a little bit concerned that it's so popular. I tend to like to buy the quiet, sell the riot, and Nurse V is quite well discussed. but I know this is a company that a lot of good investors are supporting right now. It's worth a look. It's Hydrate Technologies. Canadian ticker is Nurse on the TSX Venture Exchange. So I know, I have watched their presentation. I think the real potential on that one is their total addressable market is huge. They're basically, connecting people to what was previously doctor services or prescription services, and saving people time, saving people money. And so, yeah, it has a lot of potential. It has a lot of potential. So somebody's saying sell 10%. It's like we got to be careful of this like anonymous comment boards, right? I love those. Like buy, buy, buy. No, sell, 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 sell. It really depends. It really depends. For me, buying and selling is always. I talk about it all the time. Risk reward profile. What is your risk reward tolerance? How much risk are you willing to take on? At what potential reward are you going to get? Right. I'm rarely even selling a stock unless I prefer the cash or I have a better stock out there that I think can outperform my first stock. So I am not one of those guys that says, well, if it goes up 50%, I'm going to trim 10%. If it goes up double, I'm going to trim half. I'm going to ride the rest. I don't do any of that. Right. So for me personally, it's you miss out on some of these winners, and you need these winners in microcaps because they're not all going to be winners. And you need stocks like NTG Clarity Networks. You need stocks like Zoom Technologies. Those are the ones that are going to allow you to outperform the regular markets for years. Because I mean, for people that have those two stocks in their portfolio the past 12 months, you've got enough returns to beat the market for probably the next 5 years just from this year, right? Like that's the type of returns we're talking about with microcap stocks. When you pick a winner, you get returns for a lot of years compounded into a very short amount of time, right? Ah, which stocks are you going to talk about that I'm holding? We'll see. I put out one a week. I try to anyway. And I cheated this year because I put out so many new stocks with Planet Microcap, all that research. I researched WidePoint, Coil Energy. I researched all these different stocks. So I cheated a bit in that I introduced a lot of new stocks to this channel in April before Planet Microcap. But I think in 2023, I introduced, I think it was 65 new stocks to my channel. In 2024, I introduced 55 new stocks to my channel. And I still have the records for that. That's one of the interesting things for me and my channel where I can pat myself on the back. The hard thing is that I have receipts. I have videos. I have Substack articles and I have comments in my Discord. So like that isn't me going back in time and making up that I was bullish on NTG Clarity at 3 cents and having no proof. That those are screenshots from my own videos. So, uh, yeah, it's interesting. Do you have a number where you consider selling off NCI completely? No, I don't have a number. I never have a number. I look at their growth. I look at the company where it could go in the future. I look at their valuation. I look at my own portfolio and I look at it's gone up so much. Do I need to trim a little bit to reduce my risk? Probably, right? Do I want to sell entirely? I mean, for me, it's never going to get there because my hard line usually is 10 times sales, which is I won't buy anything that's higher than 10 times sales typically. I won't, once you get into a stock, we had one of those California nanotechnologies, got up to about 8, 9, 10 times sales. I was okay, it's time to, this one's a little bit frothy and maybe it's time to take some or all profits. And sure enough, like California Nanotechnologies came down significantly. Right now, NTG Clarity Networks is trading at what is it, 1.25 times sales? I mean, so for me, it's just hitting roughly probably fair value based on their income coming out of the Middle East. I think people could take profits. I do honestly think that at some point, NTG Clarity Network share price is going to come down, whether that comes down on their Q1 or their Q2, but eventually something will happen to drop their share price a little bit. But then keep in mind, you're open to, they could release a brand new press release of a new contract, which drives them up further, or Jordan Zinberg can go mention them again on BNM Bloomberg and shoot to the moon. But yeah, it's a good question. You also have to look at volume and direction of the volume, right? So a lot of it, when a stock goes up, I'll look at the technicals. I don't usually look at the technicals when it's going up, because usually when one of my stocks are going up, it's because it's cheap and it's just going up to somewhat of a fair valuation. That's all I usually need to make money. And but if it starts getting at too high of a price, quote unquote, because that changes everybody's opinion on what's too high, but you'll start to see the technicals switch. You'll start to see selling. You'll start to see if I started to see large volume of sales, like large volume sales, then I'd consider it and I'd look at it anyway. Do you follow VHI? It chose it over well a while back. That's Vital Hub, right? Yeah, Vital Hub's fantastic. I mean, if you chose it over well, congratulations. Its share price is arguably a little frothy. I don't follow it that much. I can't cover every stock. All right. There's a few that have gotten away from me. Vital Hub's one. Wish I covered that one. Zedcore's one, but that's very well covered by a small cap discovery. So I'm fine that I missed that one. You know, Tom Fiducian at Microcap Connection covered Blue Metric, and that's up 4x at this point, right? There's a lot of stocks to go around. All the different platforms kind of has their stocks, and sometimes I won't cover a stock necessarily if somebody else has covered it. But yeah, great company, Vital Hub, but I don't cover it on this channel. That's it. No more questions, no more concerns, no more celebrations. So I'll end it here. We're just about at an hour. And look, congratulations to anybody who was a shareholder of NTG or Zoomed or has been following me since, I started this channel up again in 2024. NTG Clarity Networks was one of the first videos on this channel in 2024. It's now up 1,800%. So congratulations for shareholders. Congratulations if you were tough enough to buy, anywhere along the way and tough it out and just see these types of returns. That's just congratulations that you can, hold a microcap stock and trust your research and realize that eventually it's going to get discovered and go through the discovery process and continue just up and up and up. I think too, Zoom's got potentially a long ways to go. Those two companies seem to be neck and neck right now. So congratulations to Zoom shareholders out there. Absolutely fantastic little company. Hopefully we'll get more of these. Just keep in mind when I make another video on some little tiny stock that you look at and you're like, I don't really like that one. Just remember that I'm not spending 4 or 5 hours of my time making a YouTube video because it's going to suck. Every video I make has some potential to be the next NTG Clarity Networks. Not saying it will be, just saying it might. So thank you for watching. You've been watching Common Sense Investing. I really appreciate your time and good luck out there.